At El Alamein, I was involved in a circumstance which I was not proud of later on, but however I thought it was our ration truck had got lost and was coming from the enemy side. When I realised it was not our ration truck, I then thought it was lorried enemy infantry, and they pulled up a short distance from my position. It was dusk, so they could not see me, but two men got out and walked towards my position. And one of them called out something in German, which I didn't understand, but I realised they were Germans, so I shot one and killed him, and then I shot the other one, and he was badly wounded, and he fell to the ground, and he started screaming for his mother and family, and he was in a bad way. So I moved forward then to see who they were or what they were, and I had already called out to the section next to me, and they were firing on the back of this truck, as they thought it was light infantry as well. And I got to this chap and went through his pockets for any intelligence I could find, and eventually I sorted out the army stuff, and then I came across this photo of his wife and two girls. Well, I hated myself to think that I had killed those children's father. And the truck above us started to explode with all these artillery shells, and I hit the ground with this fellow, and he was desperately calling for assistance or for home, and I held his hand. I was under there for a couple of hours with him while this truck exploded over our head, and I held his hand while he died, and I felt so dreadful about the fact I'd killed this children's father. And eventually, years later, I wrote a poem about it called Cairo, because he remained in my memory. And one of my mates, or one of my men called Sid Blinko, had said to me, "Finish him off." Well, it was all right while they were standing, but when they were down on the ground, as far as I was concerned, it was murder. So I wasn't prepared to finish him off in that respect, and I held him hand until he died. Well, then, years later, when I wrote this poem about it, because he stayed in my mind, and I think it was 1959 before I wrote this poem, but it always stayed in my mind. So I would like to read you this poem so you'll understand how I felt about it. This is the poem I wrote in 1959. Cairo. Cairo, I once went there, a young Aussie soldier. For those who remember, you helped pay the fare. The trip wasn't wasted, after all we did win, or did we, I ponder? It now seems a sin to kill fellow humans, young boys just as we, there with the same purpose and maybe kill me. One face I remember, I dream. He carried their photo, his wife and two girls. God, they'd both be mothers, have boys of their own, and I killed their father. How could I have known my thinking would alter? I'd mellow with age. How futile the practice, how stupid the rage. We were both boys who should have been friends and shared woe and joys. Cairo, no thank you. The memory still stays. I dream of the desert and those far-off days. I grieve for a German I killed as a boy. The memories are bitter. Forgive me, my own friend.
That was beautiful. Thank you, sir.
Yes, that truck I was speaking about was full of artillery ammunition, and quite obviously they had got lost. They were probably intending to deliver it to an artillery position, an enemy artillery position. So I suppose I saved a lot of shells from dropping on us, but they exploded over our head while I was there with this German officer. But he stayed with me, and I always think about the two girls and the fact that, of course, they'd be old ladies now and their children would be probably married. But it was just the fact that to kill him just outright while he was lying on the ground, to my opinion, was murder.